Sukhi Hotu. Welcome to Buddhist Mahavihara's Facebook page this evening, and thank you for bearing with us while we got everything in order. For today's session on Dhammadana series, I would like to welcome Bhante Katagoda Pesala all the way from Sri Lanka to join us at the studio. Good evening, Bhante. Uh, this evening's talk is on Dhammapada chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Suffering follows the evildoer. Before we begin, I would like to give a small introduction about Bhante. Katagoda Thera was born in Valimada, Sri Lanka on the 14th of July 1987 and completed his formal education at the Central College Valimada. He then served as an officer in Sri Lanka Army and also obtained a 3-year diploma in hospitality management from Sri Lanka Institute of Hotel Management in Colombo. He changed his path towards spirituality and developed a keen interest in learning Buddha's Dhamma. This noble aspiration made him join the Buddha Sasana and become a Buddhist monk under the tutelage of Venerable Mankadevela Sudasana Thero, Venerable Mankadevela Nandaratana Thero, and Venerable Kotmale Kumara Kassapa Thero at Labunoruwakanda Aranya Senasana, where he started studying the Tripitaka and Pali language. He also received his higher ordination in the year 2020. As a resident monk at the Labunoruwakanda Aranya Senasana, he currently takes part in Dhamma discussions, preaching, monastery activities, and furthering his studies in Dhamma towards gaining a deep knowledge and understanding in Buddha's teachings. Now I would like to hand over the studio to Bhante to start this evening's Dhammadana session.
Thank you. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. May my homage to the Blessed One, the extremely enlightened one, the worthy one, Buddham Dhammam Sangham Namassami. Mano Pubbangama Dhamma Mano Settha Manomaya Manasache Paduttena Bhasativa Karotiva Tatonang Dukkha Manveti Sakkhaṃ Vahato Padang Mano Pubbangama Dhamma Mano Settha Manomaya Manasache Pasannena Bhasati Karoti va Tatonang Sukhamanveti Thayav Anapayiniti. Good evening, Dhamma friends. I would like to first welcome all of you for this Dhamma session. Dear Dhamma friends, it's a great pleasure as well as an honor for me to conduct this valuable Dhamma session on behalf of you all, because I am about to share the immense knowledge of the great Buddha, Supreme Buddha. So, as Buddhist followers, our prime is to be somehow or other understand the Buddhist Dharma. By understanding Buddhist Dharma, the purpose of understanding Buddhist Dhamma, that means to find eternal happiness for our life. That is the main purpose of following the Dhamma. As a Buddhist follower, whether he is a Buddhist monk, whether he is a lay follower, all of us having the prime aim, that is to understand the Dhamma and somehow eradicate this continuous samsaric journey, because this samsaric journey is full of suffering. That is why in Lord Buddha said, Dukkhe patithita loko. That means this world is standing on the dukkha. Sometimes at the beginning, followers may hear this term. They may question that how it is possible that everything comes under suffering. Externally, if we see the scenarios, we feel that, but if you deeply go into the Dhamma, you will understand the reality of the Dhamma, how the suffering works, how it is, why it is the Buddha said everything comes under suffering. Under Four Noble Truths, in the first Noble Truth, it is said about suffering. Dukkha Satya, it is most people in the Western, they have known as the Dukkha Satya. They have used the term called suffering. Suffering is just kind of a meaning, but it's not 100% applicable for the term Dukkha Satya. So somehow, my dear friends, if you want to really understand the Dhamma as Buddhist followers, there are 5 basic principles to be adopted. In almost all over the discourses, our great teacher, the Buddha, emphasized these factors. By following these factors, we would be able to understand the Dhamma. Without following the order of these principles, we cannot have the expected result out of the Dhamma. My dear friends, the first thing we must do, the Buddha said in Pali, it is Sutta. Sutta means we have to hear the Dhamma properly. So before we hear, there is another factor. We have to find the true noble friendship. Without having the true noble friendship, we cannot hear the proper Dhamma. So it is a very important factor to be bear in our mind. That is, the first factor is Sutta. We have to hear the Dhamma. First, we must find the proper Kalyana Mitta, and from them, we have to hear Dhamma first. Then the second one is Dhatha. Dhatha means, my dear friends, things that we hear, we have to remember. We have to embed the Dhamma into our mind. That is called Dhatha. Dharana in Pali terms, it is called Dharana. Dharana, if we convert that into the English, then that is called, we have to remember things. That is called Dhatha. Then the third part, Vachasa Parajita. Vachasa Parajita means, my dear friends, we have to remember, we have to, by heart, verbally, we have to practice that, the Dhamma that we hear. So at the beginning of this sermon, I uttered 2 verses. Verbally, I have practiced them. That is why I can recall those verses. So likewise, if you can remember these Dhamma terms, when the times come, when you are at the difficult situations, at that time, you can recall the Dhamma. And when the difficulties arise onto you, you can deal with them. So that is the importance of the third part. Verbally, we have to practice. That is called Vachasa Parajita. And the fourth one, my dear friends, that is known as Manasanupekkhita. Manasanupekkhita means, my dear friends, we have to, from our mind, by using the wisdom, we have to contemplate on Dhamma. Without just hearing, we cannot understand. By using our wisdom, we have to contemplate. That is called Manasanupekkhita. And the final part, it is the most important one, Ditthiya Suppatividdha. Ditthiya means view. Suppatividdha means we have to correct our view. We may have different types of view. Even the Buddha said there are 62 type of michaditti. That means 60 type of wrong view. That means they have ignorance embedded with their mind, so they believe so many things. So those are then that one we called as michaditti. Likewise, there are 62 michadittis are available in this world. Buddha said in one of the sutras. So it is very important to have the correct vision. That is called right view. In Buddhist point of view, without having the right view, we cannot go through the Dhammapada, because, my dear friends, you may have heard as Buddhist, if we need to become enlightened, we must go through the path of Noble Eightfold Path. So Noble Eightfold Path begins with the right view. Also, if we take the modern context, modern business context, in that modern business context also, it is very important for us to learn about vision. And according to the vision, we must prepare a mission. According to the vision, if we prepare a mission and if we execute our mission according to the vision, then only our business purposes can be succeeded. Otherwise, we cannot achieve the expected target. Similarly, in Dhamma also, my dear friends, it is very important to correct our vision. So by following those 5 steps, anyone can able to correct his view. So in order to do that, I invite you all to follow through those principles and try to make your vision clear. Then you will know how to perform, how to go through in the Dhammapada, my dear friends. So today, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to talk about Dhammapada. Dhammapada, it is one of the best teachings of the Lord Buddha. It is being read by so many people throughout the world. It is very famous among the Buddhist, non-Buddhist alike. That is because, my dear friends, the teachings of Dhammapada have touched the hearts of the people. Because the teachings and the stories are mentioned in Dhammapada are very connected to our life. Whether we are a Buddhist or a non-Buddhist, everybody, we can learn lots of things from Dhammapada. So, in Dhammapada, basically, there are 426 verses contained. So again, that 426 verses again categorized into 26 vaggas. In Pali, vagga means, Pali it is called vagga. In English, it means a group of stanzas. Accordingly, the first group of stanzas are consisting with 20 verses. The first group of verses known as Yamaka Vagga. Here, the Yamaka means pair, dual or twin verses. Why it is being named as Yamaka, my dear friends? If you take the first verse, it talks about the impure mind, unwholesome mind. With contrary to the first one, the second one talks about the pure mind. So similarly, all the other remaining verses also included in Yamaka Vagga in the similar manner. That is why the whole Vagga is known as Yamaka Vagga. So, if I come to the first verse, Mano Pubbangama Dhamma. Here, Mano mean, my dear friend, the best suitable English word for the Mano is mind. So, in Pali, we can we can find so many words for the mano, like mano, manasa, hadayang, pandarang, vinyana. Likewise, there are so many words available for the term mano. So all those terms explain about the mano. Mano is the mind. Though it is said mind, most people don't have an idea about the mind. They don't know the they have no idea about the mind, because most people think mind is a entity which prevails continuously. It's not thing like that according to the Buddhist point of view. Buddha said mano is a thing is periodically arise. For an example, at this moment we are hearing Dhamma sermon. So to hear Dhamma sermon, mind has to be at the ear of person. So when we are seeing things, mind has to come to the eyes. So that time the mind will be called as eye consciousness. When we hear things, that time it is being called as ear consciousness. Likewise, mind is a thing that time term it is getting changed. That is why the theory of impermanency, it is applicable for the vinyana or the mano. So somehow, my dear friends, the first verse mentioned this mano, pubbangama dhamma. Pubbangama means this very mind precedes, and this very mind forerunner. Mind is the forerunner. Mind is the beginner of all the dhamma. Here, the dhamma means basically the karma. All the karmas we do, those are known as simply as dhamma. So basically, we do 3 types of karma. Mano karma means the karmic things we collected, we do from our mind. Then the vachi karma, the verbal activities we do. So at that time we collect vachi karma and the kaya karma. The physical activities we do, those are known as kaya karma. So altogether 3 types of karma. That is, those are known as dhamma. For all those karma, the priority, the beginner or the chief, it is the mind. That is why it is said mano pubbangama dhamma. Mano setta manomaya. Mano setta. Setta means the greatest, my dear friends. Mind is the greatest. Manomaya means everything made by the mind. Then the other part says, manasache paduttena bhasati va karoti va. If one speaks with evil mind, if one speaks or acts with evil mind, tatonan dukkhaman veti chakkanga vahato padam. Because of that, suffering follows him, just like the wheel follows the hoof of the draught of. That is the simple meaning of the first verse. Before I further express the meaning of the first verse, my dear friends, I would like to explain you the following story of the first verse. As the first verse mentioned, similarly, for all the verses, there's a related story behind the verses. The first verse story related with an Arahant Thera named Chakkupa. In Pali, Chakku means the eye, Pala means the owner. So before he enters to the monkhood, he named as Pala. At that time, he was a businessman. So one of the day, when the Buddha lived in Savatthi town, it was happened for him to reach there for a business purpose. So during that time, he able to listen the sermon of the Buddha, and after hearing, he understood the Dhamma and he entered the Buddha Sasana as a monk, and he got the higher ordination. And after completing 5 years, he went for one of the rainy season for Vastana retreat. During that retreat, very earnestfully, he had meditated and achieved the Arahant state. When at the time he get the enlightenment, at the same time, simultaneously, his physical eyesight destroyed due to a bad karma. He lost one aspect of eye. At the same time, he got another type of eye. He lost the physical eye, but he got the Pachnya Chakshuse, that means the wisdom eye. So by having the wisdom eye, he understood the noble truth. So he became enlightened. After getting enlightenment, one day, Venerable Chakkupala, who was blind, came to pay homage to the Buddha at the Jetavana monastery. While he was pacing up and down in meditation, he accidentally stepped on some insects. So, to perform the walking meditation, there is a place near to the kutis or the cottage or the accommodations which the monks live. That is a place called ambulatory, my dear friends. That ambulatory, what we are do there, we do walking meditation. That place known as ambulatory. So in that ambulatory, this Chakkupala Thera was doing walking meditation. So he accidentally stepped upon insects. So somehow, following day morning, some other bhikkhus visiting him, and they found the dead insect. They thought ill of him and reported the matter to the Buddha. When questioned by the Buddha whether they had seen Chakkupala killing the insect, they answered in the negative. So it is a very important thing, my dear friends, because even nowadays, most Buddhists also, they like to see enlightened one. But in this example, understand, my dear friends, enlightened one by seeing his body, his actions, his talking, his speech, we cannot understand. So if you really want to understand, if you really want to associate with enlightened one, you have to learn the Dhamma, and you have to perform the Sila Samadhi Prajna. And when you understood the Dhamma, you know how to identify enlightened one. So even the Buddha's time, people who didn't know Dhamma, they could not able to understand, recognize the enlightened one. So in this example, you can understand that. So somehow, the Buddha then admonished them, just as you had not seen him killing, so also he had not seen those living insects. Besides being an Arahant, he had no intention of killing, because enlightened mind already eradicated the kilesas or the defilement, namely raga mean craving, dosa mean hatred or ill will, and the difficult one, it is known as ignorance or the avidya. So all those defilements completely eradicated by the Chakkupala Thera. So that is why he become enlightenment. So he cannot have any bad intention to kill any insect. He can never do that. So that is why Buddha said, just as you had not seen him killing, so also he had not seen those living insects. Besides being an Arahant, he had no intention of killing, and was not guilty of committing an unwholesome act. On being asked why Chakkupala was blind, the Buddha revealed the following story to explain the nature of karmic effects. So by going through this story, you will be able to understand how the bad karma will affect to our life. Chakupala Thero, in one of his previous lives, he was a physician. Once, he had deliberately made a woman patient blind. That woman had promised to become his servant together with her children if her eyes were completely cured. Fearing that she and her children would have to become servants, she lied to the physician. She told him that her eyes were getting worse when in fact they were perfectly cured. The physician knew she was deceiving him, so in revenge, he gave her another ointment which made her totally blind. So, dear friends, that is the place where his mind arise with the unpure thoughts, because he got to know that the physician, he got to know that lady is going to deceive him. So in revenge, he did the bad karma. As a result of this evil deed, the physician lost his eyesight many times in his later existences. So at the end, the Buddha then commented that an evil deed committed will follow the evildoer, just like a wheel follows the hoof of the ox that bears the yoke. So in the verse, at the last two sentences, it is said, Tathonam dukkha mangveti chakkanga bahato padanti. The meaning of that is, just like if one commits evil deeds from his mind or from his verbal activities or from his physical activities, suffering follows him like the wheel follows the hoof of the draught ox. If you carefully consider the simile which the Buddha had given, the simile itself gives us a big lesson, my dear friends. Suppose in that time, ancient era, people have used animals for transportation. If they want to transport any goods from one place to another place, they use animals. So by taking a cart, by attaching an animal to a cart, that animal has to drag the items from place to place. That is how the transportation was done during that time. So suppose if we think deeply on that kind of a situation, that normally animal cannot talk. They cannot convey the message. So suppose if one of that animal, if he having a sickness or any difficulty, if it is a human, he could say that I am having this difficulty and I am having this sicknesses. Oh, if it is too burden, it is too much of weight, please reduce the weight. Like so, he can say that. But that innocent animal can't do anything. Whether it like it or not, it has to drag the burden. So similarly, my dear friends, those who are performing bad activities via verbally or physically with impure mind, so they also have to face the same scenario. If you carefully looked into the society, you find lots of examples. People are suffering due to various reasons. Some people doesn't have money. Some people doesn't have a chance to eat. Some people doesn't have to money for education. So like that, there are so many people available. So they are suffering because they cannot request. Nobody is helping to them. They are suffering like that innocent animal. They cannot say to anyone. So similarly, that is because they have done bad deeds. So similarly, if you perform bad deeds with the impure mind, you will also have to suffer in future life, my dear friends. So that is the first verse. If we move into the second one, he said, my dear friend, Mano pubbangama dhamma mano setta manomaya manasache pasannena bhasativa karotiva. Instead of dukkha, here it is said sukha. Sukha means the happiness. Tathonang sukhaman veti chhayav anapayin. Similar to the first one, mano pubbangama dhamma. Mind is the forerunner of every dhamma. Mano setta, mind is the greatest thing. And also manomaya, everything made by the mind. Manasache pasanne, here the pasanne means the mind with pure thoughts. Bhasativa karotiva, if one speaks or acts, if one performs verbal activities with pure mind, if one performs physical activities with pure mind, tatonang sukhamam veti chhayav anapayin. Because of that, sukha means the happiness follows him, just like the shadow which never departs. So, in this verse also, the Buddha given us a nice, beautiful simile. If you deeply go into the simile, in that also, it talks about a shadow. As human beings, we all have accommodations, my dear friends. By having accommodation means we have some kind of a shadow. If we are in a shadow, it provides us the happiness. So similarly, those who are performing good verbal and physical activities with pure mind, the happiness will follow him. Now we all are in shade, so we feel comfort. When the time too much of sunlight is there, if you happen to stay under the sun without any shade, what will happen? You have to get burned. It's suffering. But if you are in a shady tree, if you can go under a shady tree, that will at that time you will get huge comfort. That is because that is the nature of the shadow. Similarly, my dear friends, if you perform good deeds with a pure mind, the happiness will follow you without hurting you. The happiness only provides you the comfort. That is why in another term, Buddha said, Hadayang pinatiti punyam. If one live with a pure mind, it means Hadayang is punatiti means with a happy mind. If we live with a happy mind, or if one lives with the happy mind, that is known as punya. Punya means the merit, virtues, or the wholesome deeds. If one having a pure mind, automatically he do manokamma. So again, the Buddha categorized all those kamma into 3 kamma. Like we can perform kamma via our mind. That is called, those are known as manokamma. Also, as I mentioned earlier, verbally we can do kamma. That is called vachi kamma. Also, physically we can do activities. Those are known kaya kamma. Out of those 3 kammas, the most powerful thing is the mind, my dear friend. Manokamma is the most powerful thing. So, according to that, that's another point, my dear friend. As Buddhist, karmic, to perform good karma and avoid bad karma, it is not the primary aim of Buddhist, because karmic effect about karmic effect, even before the Buddha, the other religious teachers, they have talked about karma. You may have heard one of the famous Dhammapada, another verse that is called Sabbapapassa akaranang kusalassa upasampada sachitta paryodapanang etam buddhana sasanam. So we have to avoid all the bad karma. As I explained, we have to get rid of all the bad karma and we have to perform all the good karma. That is called Kusalassa Upasampada. That is the primary aim of the Buddhist. But that is not the final aim of the Buddhist. Final aim is Sachitta Paryodapana. We have to cleanse our mind. That is the main thing. In order to cleanse our mind, my dear friends, it is important to understand what is the mind. Suppose our venerable teacher once said in one of the Dhamma sermon, if I want to take away evil, if I want to throw away an evil and devil spirit, if I want to throw away devil spirit, first we must see them. Without seeing the devil spirit, we cannot throw him away. So similarly, if as Buddhist people, if we don't know the, if we cannot recognize the mind, we cannot purify it. So the main purpose is the Buddhist. The main purpose of all Buddhists is to cleanse the mind. So if you completely cleanse the mind, at that state, it is known as the enlightenment. So it is beyond the second verse for your improve your knowledge. And if you go to the story of the second verse, that is about the Brahmin Prince. He was named as Mattakundali. He was a young Brahmin whose father was very stingy and never gave anything in charity. Even the gold ornaments for his only child were made by himself in order to save payment for workmanship. When his son was suffering from jaundice, it's a critical illness. When he suffers from jaundice, it's very difficult to cure. No physician was consulted until it was too late. When he realized that his son was dying, he had the youth carried outside to the veranda so that people coming to his house would not see his possession. So that type of stingy character. He was a miser. He didn't want to give anything in charity. He didn't take care about his only son, because that the first at the beginning I mentioned about the three kilesas or the three defilements. That is one of them is lobha or the craving. When one is having craving, so he cannot identify good thing and bad thing, because mind is covered with craving defilement. So we cannot identify good or bad. So that was happened to this father. He cannot identify, he couldn't able to recognize his only son's condition. So that is what the kilesas do for us. If we having kilesas, we also have to face similar conditions, my dear friends. So on that morning, the Buddha arising early from his deep meditation of compassion. In Pali, one stage of the Buddha, one jhanic absorption is named as Mahakaruna Samapatti Jnana. That can be achieved only by the Buddha. So after reaching that level, early in the morning, every day, what Buddha did was, he was observing the world. Today, to whom I'm going to help, to whom I'm going to preach the Dhamma. By contemplating in this way, on that particular day, he observed the innocent Mattakundali. So when entering Savatthi for almshood with his disciples, the Buddha stood near the door of Mattakundali's house. The Buddha sent forth a ray of light to attract the attention of the youth, who was facing the interior of the house. At that time, his illness was so critical. The condition was so critical, he couldn't even move his body part. He was, at that time when the Buddha reached there, he was facing towards the interior of the house. So he couldn't even turn his face towards the Buddha. That much of illness is that much of critical at that time. The youth saw the Buddha's face. The youth saw the Buddha's face. He was very weak and he could only profess his faith, but he thereby gained some happiness by seeing the rays of the Buddha's compassion. When we see the Buddha, we can understand the Buddha. Dear friends, if you have observed some monks, they are practicing loving kindness meditation. If you continuously practice loving kindness meditation, even to see that monk, even to see that person, our mind, we can have the pleasure by seeing him, because it can affect that. It can be recognized. Those who are developing loving kindness meditation, so even for us, if one is there who is practicing loving kindness, we can recognize him by seeing his facial expression and things. We can identify him. So similarly, the Buddha is spreading loving kindness. He has no limit to everyone. So this young Brahmin, Mattakundali, he developed the faith towards the Buddha. But that was enough. That developing that faith, it was enough. When he passed away, with his heart in devotion to the Buddha, he was reborn in the Tavatimsa celestial world. From his celestial abode, he saw his father mourning over him at the cemetery. When he died, his father, what he did was, he was mourning about his son. When actually, when he was living, he didn't take care of him. But after dying, he was mourning. He was just mourning. So similarly, most people in nowadays, they do the same thing. When their parents, when their children, they are living, they are not doing their responsibilities for them. But when they get die, so they are trying to give dana and do pirit, do so many activities. But the most important thing is, if your parents are living, help them when they are living. So under Laukika Sammaditthi, Attimata Attipita. If one treating his parents, it's a part of a Laukika Sammaditthi. Those who taking care of his parents, his or her parents, it's a part of a Laukika Sammaditthi, or the right view. So it is important to treat people when they are living, my dear friends. After dying, we cannot help them, because after the death, they have to face according to their karmas that they have been collected throughout their life. So according to them, they have to be born in, according to the karmas, they have to born, whether maybe in heaven, maybe in hell. That is depend upon the karmas that they have collected throughout their life. So we cannot help, except some situation that is mentioned in Dhamma. That is why we are invoking merit after doing meritorious deeds. That is something else. So that father, he was crying, mourning about the Mattakundali. Then Mattakundali, from his celestial abode, he saw his father mourning over him at the cemetery, and appeared to the old man in the likeness of his old self. He told his father about his rebirth in the Tavatimsa world and advised him to approach the Buddha. Tavatimsa is one of the celestial realms. If you perform meritorious deeds, then you will be able to be born there. So he advised his father to meet the Buddha and offer alms, and also listen to a Dhamma sermon. So the old man, according to the advice given by his son, what the old man did was, the old man did as he was told, and after the sermon, the question was brought up as to whether one could be reborn in a celestial world simply by mentally professing profound faith in the Buddha. So even nowadays, most people question that by having a faith towards the Buddha, having Shraddha towards the Buddha, can we gain merit? That is why, my dear friends, those statements people are making, that is they don't know, that is because they don't know what the mind is. If one knows the quality and the power of the mind, they never say this type of statement. Without practicing charity or observing the moral precepts, so the Buddha willed that Matta Kundali should appear in person. Matta Kundali appeared in his celestial glory and told them about his rebirth in the Tavatimsa world. Only then did the listeners become convinced that the young man had attained much glory by simply devoting his mind to the Buddha. At the end of the discourse, the old man realized the Dhamma and became stream enterer, and donated most of his wealth to the cause of the Dhamma. So he has completely changed his life with the available of Dhamma. So my dear friends, you may also doing bad deeds, you may also doing bad karma. But if you meet the Dhamma, proper Dhamma, you can completely change your life. If you, so far, up to this day, you may have been doing so many bad deeds, but doesn't matter. From now onwards, you can change yourself. That greedy man, he had not been even care of his only child. So he didn't take care of only child. But with the hearing of the Dhamma, he changed his life completely. So it is very important, my dear friends, to understand the Dhamma. So to understand the Dhamma, you have to hear Dhamma properly. And you have to make your vision. Then if you make your vision properly, correct, or the harmonious vision, if you have the harmonious vision, not only by having vision, you cannot gain the result. In, as I mentioned earlier, in business context, if you have the vision, if you haven't prepared the mission according to the vision, you cannot have the results of the business. Similarly, if you have the right view, but you are not doing other parts like right thought, that means Samma Ditti means right view. After that, there are 7 factors, beginning from Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa means right thought, Samma Vacha means right speech, and Samma Kammanta means right activity, right physical activity, Samma Ajiva means right livelihood. Like so, there are 7 factors. Those are comes under mission. So without performing the mission, you will not be able to achieve the result. So by understanding this phenomena, the nature of the mind, the powerfulness of the mind, today onwards, you try to cleanse your mind. From the beginning, you have to follow the 5 precepts, at least 5 precepts. By following precepts means you are making first step towards the Dhamma. If you go through Sila, then automatically you will be able to achieve the Samadhi. The middle part, the middle of the path, that is called Samadhi, or some say it is known as in Westerners, some say mental concentration. That is one way of expressing Samadhi, but it is not 100% correct. Mental concentration of thought, that is called Samadhi. So if you perform Sila well, you can gain the Samadhi. And when you have the Samadhi, you can go to the Panya. Panya means the wisdom. As the Chakkupala Thera gained the wisdom eye, at the time when you get the wisdom eye, you will be able to understand completely about the mind. That time you also be able to achieve the enlightenment. That is how the Buddha's path clearly mentioned, from the vision to the mission and to the enlightenment. So with that, my time for the Dhamma sermon is fading away. So if you have any doubts, this is the time for clarification.
Thank you, Bhante, for that insightful sharing. I will display a few of the questions that the viewers have for you.
Dear Bhante, is the process of bad, evil karma slow like a cart like this Dhammapada verse for an evil doer? As for the second verse, does it mean the goodness protect us like a shadow? Thank you. It is possible, my dear friends. If you have the impure mind, if you work accordingly, definitely you will have the results right now. Because most people think if we perform good deeds, we will have the results after life. But that is a wrong perception. In Dhamma, the one great characteristic is known as Sandittika. Sandittika means you can witness the results, you can be seen. So if you perform bad karma with impure mind, the result is come to the moment you perform the bad deed, then onward, that time onward, you will begin to suffer. Suppose if you have the anger, at that time we cannot even laugh. At the time we have the anger, hatred, that time we suffer. We may not think about that. Suffering begins that time. Similarly, with contrary to the anger, if you can perform loving kindness, at the time when you perform loving kindness, you can have the results on the spot. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow also you will get the benefit after passing this life. In future lives also you will get the benefit. That is something else. Buddhism is not for getting results in the future life. It is a Sandittika Dhamma. Sandittika means results can be taken right now. That is why the Buddhism is important for us. So I hope the answer is enough for the questioner. Dear Bhante, by keeping our mind away from the external disturbances that stimulates our anger, is it avoidance? Is it avoidance, or should we learn to make ourselves as an island, like the Buddha taught? Thank you. Atta Deepa Bhikkhave Viharata Atta Sarana Ananya Sarana. Dhamma Deepa Bhikkhave Viharata Dhamma Sarana Ananya Sarana. The Buddha said one of the sentences, one of the Dhamma terms. So if we want to have the refuge, we have to take refuge only Dhamma. So Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha is there. But now we cannot have the Buddha as the refuge. If you want to, now we cannot worship the Buddha. Now we cannot take the instruction from the Buddha. But still, Dhamma is there. And the Sangha is there. So that is why this Buddha said, the Dhamma is the refuge, only refuge. The other one, Atta Deepa Bhikkhave Viharata. It means oneself. If myself want to find the happiness, I want to make myself the island. So some explain in Pali, Atta Deepa means, some explains that it is as island, but it's also in commentaries it is mentioned that Deepa means the Aloka. Aloka means the light. So we ourselves have to enlighten ourselves. That is why another term Buddha said, Buddha is just like the teacher. He teaches Dhamma only. We have to, as follows, we have to follow the Dhamma path. So following part can be done only myself. I can guide you like I did in this sermon. I can guide you, but you are responsible for your salvation. I cannot salvate you. You yourself go through the path. Similarly, that means that you yourself have to lit the light. So it is very important for us to understand that, and then and we have to perform the Dhamma by ourselves. That is why it is said, Atta Deepa Bhikkha Viharata Atta Sarana Anya Sarana. For me, myself is the refuge and the Dhamma. Other than that, there is no any other refuge from the outer world. So as Buddhists, that important factor we must understood, my dear Dhamma friends. I hope this answer is suitable for him. And dear Bhante, what is meant by mind and consciousness? Are those two or one? If you go through Dhammasangani Prakarana, it is the metaphysics of Buddhism. It's a subtle things to be understood. It's very difficult. Mind and the consciousness are the both terms similar. So if we various various terms are there because like when we, as I mentioned earlier, when we seeing things, the mind comes to the eye. At that time, it is known as eye consciousness. But after that, if you are hearing another something else, if you are hearing, at that time mind goes to the ear. That time mind will be known as ear consciousness. And also, if you are thinking about something, if you are remembering, recalling past experiences, at that time mind deals with the mind. That time it is called mind consciousness. So in whatever, the mind and consciousness is the equal term, same term, defining the same thing. In English derivatives, we cannot find proper words, suitable words. The most suitable word for the consciousness, or the most suitable word for the mind or the mano, it is mind. Some people are known as consciousness also, like people say for the mind, mano, and in another sutra it is said as vinyan. So similarly in English also we can use both the term mind and the consciousness. I hope the answer is understood by the question. Is there ways to tell you are on the right path? Is there ways to tell you are on the right path if we are practicing already? Yeah, that is the way. So as Buddhists, we should know about the Dhamma. So the best available resource is the Pali Canon. You have to go through the suttas. When you go through the suttas, you will find the practicability of Dhamma. There was a nice sutra that is called Sedaka Sutra. Dear friends, it is said the Buddha about one Simai. There was a cow herd. When that cow herd moving here and there, one of the donkey going behind with the cow herd. So that donkey always seeing the cows. So he began to think that he was also as a cow. He said, I too am a cow. I too am a cow. Likewise, he is saying that. But the Buddha said, the donkey doesn't possess the voice of the cow, doesn't possess the color of the cow, doesn't possess the hoof of the cow. He doesn't have any characteristics which belongs to the cow. But even though he said he too as a cow. Similarly, my dear friends, there are some monks are there. They are wearing the robe. They say, I am a monk. I too am a monk. I too am a monk. I too am a monk. So they are staying with the monks. They say that. But they doesn't have any likes towards the sila or the morality aspect to enhance his morality. He doesn't have any interest. To enhance the samadhi or the concentration, he doesn't have any interest. Or the sila samadhi prajna, in order to enhance the prajna or the wisdom, he doesn't have any interest. So he's similar, he's same like that donkey. Donkey is not belongs to the cow herd. Similarly, though he wearing robe, he doesn't belong to the sangha. So similarly, my dear friends, if you are saying that by having the label, we say we are Buddhist. We are proudly say that. But if we don't have the willingness towards the morality or the sila, if you don't have the interesting towards the samadhi, if you don't have the interesting towards the prajna, we also same like the donkeys. So if you want to know that the path you are going, whether it is correct or not, if you want to clarify it clearly, you have to go through the Dhamma, Tripitaka Palikana. There are so many Kalyana Mittas available in Sri Lanka also. I don't know about the Western community, but whoever who hears the Dhamma, they have to go through the suttas. And when we hear a Dhamma sermon from anyone, we have to go through the Tripitaka and we have to compare with the Tripitaka. Then we can come to know that we are going in the right direction. The Tripitaka and the Pali Sutta is like, my dear friends, suppose when we are going to an unknown place, how we came to know, how we know the path. Before we go there, we have to ask from someone the signs of the path, then the signs of the destination. After knowing everything, we can perform, we can go through the path. When we are going through the path, we see the signs. Then we can recognize that how much we have arrived, how much we have to go through. Likewise, we can recognize the place we are in. So similarly, when you go through the sutra, if you read sutra properly, you would come to know that you will be aware of the place where you in the Noble Eightfold Path. As Buddhists, we have to perform the Noble Eightfold Path, no? Begins with the right way. If you go through the sutta, you will come to know up to where you have reached. Further, you have to how much you have to go. So likewise, you will be convinced with the Dhamma when you go through the sutra. Hope I have given the answer for him. Can bad karma be erased by doing good karma? It's also a good question. All the bad karma we cannot erase. But if you do like there are panchanantariya karma, that is if one with the evil mind, if one kills the father, if one kills the mother, if one kills the arahant, the enlightened one, if one shaken the Buddha's blood, and also if one do the Sangha means the schism of the Sangha, that is known as Sangha. It can be done only by the higher ordained monk. So those 5 things, if he perform, he cannot change. Somehow or other, in the next life, he will definitely be born in hell. So if it is a simple karma, if simple little bad karma, we can change. We can change that. Buddha has given a simile that suppose there is a cup of water, little cup of water. If you put a little bit of salt, when you taste it, you won't get the saltiness because you put very little bit of salt. But if you put more salt, you will begin to taste the saltiness. But instead putting salt, if you put more water onto that saltiness gradually fade away. If you collect more water, you won't be able to feel the saltiness taste. So similarly, maybe you have done bad karma, but if you perform good deeds continuously, then you can fade the effects of bad karma. Hope I have given the answer for him too. Avoid evil, avoid evil and do good. Which one is more important? Thank you, Bhante. It is a very important question, my dear friend. So, in Buddhism, it is said, Dasa Kusala and Dasa Akusala. 10 Kusala Karma and 10 Akusala Karma. So under 10 kusala karma, there are 10 precepts. Like if one observe the five precepts, he doesn't need to do it at the same time simultaneously. It will automatically become kusala. If you avoiding killing animals, that is then it itself is a kusal or the wholesome thing. Beyond that, by doing dana, it means by doing dana you can do punya. That is called dasa punya vastu. Avoiding dasa akusala, it itself becomes a kusala. So it is not the two separate things. If you are avoiding bad karma, automatically your mind perform the good kusala karma. Like when you are switching on the light, at the same time the darkness fade away. It happens similar at the same time. You cannot differentiate between the lighting up and the darkness fading away. We cannot differentiate. And similarly, if you're avoiding bad karma, at the same time it's kind of a kusala karma. So if you go to Sammaditi Sutra, it is said about dasa kusala karma, 10 wholesome deeds and 10 unwholesome deeds. So you will find the answer for that.
Thank you, Bhante, for answering those questions. Now, I would like to invite Bhante to carry on Anumodana for the departed.
So, dear Dhamma friends, to conduct this Dhamma sermon, so many people have contributed. Especially, I would like to pass all the merits to my teachers. Sabbadhanam, Dhammadhanam, Jinati. Dhammadana is the most powerful dana which can one perform. It's the most powerful dana. So all the merits that we have gathered, first I would like to invoke upon my teachers, because all those my teachers, I got this opportunity. So I invoke all the merits to my teachers. May they be well, be happy, and may they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Also, all the deities and gods who are living in this world and also in celestial world. All the gods, those who are like to invoke merit, they may have these merits. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Also, our departed ones, may they invoke, may they have these all these merits, and may they be happy, be well, and may they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. And also, those who have contributed to this noble activity, there are monks and lay followers also. I cannot say the names of all. So for all, I invoke all the merits to them, and may they, by sharing with these merits, may they attain the peace, attain the happiness, and ultimately may they be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana and to make an end to the suffering. So with that, I come to the end of my Dhamma sermon. I wish all human beings, all the beings, be happy, be well, and all of them may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bhante, for conducting the Anumodana. We have almost come to the end of the Dhamma talk of today. Before we end, I would like to thank Bhante, Katagoda Pesala Thera on behalf of the committee and the management of the Buddhist Mahavihara. And I would also like to thank today's sponsors and everyone those who have joined us this evening. Thank you, Sukhi Hotu.